Advanced Brazil SFG. Right now we're going to kind of go through a tutorial of short bridging to full bridging. Short bridging is really the most essential, like I said probably in my past videos. If you're someone that squats, just because the short bridge just really focuses on the leg engagement to help balance out the muscle structure to keep you away from injuries really. And then even furthermore, it just helps with the hip flexor and the pelvic thrust. So if you're someone that deadlifts as well, definitely a squatter. I mean, this is something you want to add, whether it be isometric or even in dynamic movements, is something that's critical. So just keep that in mind when we go through this. Okay, first one with the short bridge, you want to try to, you might need somebody to help you out, eye this for you, because it's really, you want to try to get a 90-degree. Don't worry about how the feet are positioned, but just worry about just how the hip goes up and goes down. Try to get a 90-degree there. You can challenge it and test it by how your heel placement is. So just, you can drive from just your heel until you can get your feet flat, because you really want to feel the heel doing the driving from the earth and not so much a flat foot. So when you're going to lay back, you're going to think about if your dantian or your pelvis, depending on the way you want to look at it, depending on what you study, is thrusting up and out. So you're trying to roll back this way to some degree while planting your feet into the ground, stomping, rooting. You want to be able to thrust outward to help stretch out the chest as much as possible. Key is to be comfortable as you can. So if that didn't feel comfortable where your feet are, just adjust them. That's okay. Now when you're up here in this position, you want to pinch the coin so your glutes will be tight. So you have to really visualize you're pinching a coin and not wanting it to drop. And you push up as hard as you can. You should feel the hamstrings, you should feel your feet grabbing the floor, and just breathe comfortably when doing so. Okay? Furthermore, to help with your bridging, to make sure you're maximizing the balance of the muscles and the chain are working, just get like a fist distance apart between the knees. You can use a towel to pinch, but just kind of roll it up, fold it in. From there, that's just a good way to make sure you're keeping pressure coming inward a bit, so you're really focusing on every bit of your muscles in your legs working as one unit. So up, and keep it tight, because if it doesn't stay tight, it's going to fall, and that's the obvious thing. So you want to be able to keep the push. Ways you can challenge even more, just get something heavier. I mean, a water bottle has water in it, so it makes it a little heavier. So just from there, just push. Focus, pinching, okay, and down. And remember, you don't have to be great at this. You don't have to be the most stellar looking person at doing this. Just doing it is beneficial enough. As far as like a solid progression, as far as tutorial sense, is going to be your straight bridge. Okay, this one also helps with the shoulder stretching and just kind of another way to just kind of help open you up a little bit more. So you're going to sit in an L position, okay? You're going to point your toes forward. You're going to place your hands behind you with a big chest. So don't sag with a poor flexion in the spine. Big chest, so expand outward. If your wrists are uncomfortable, okay, this way, because of the way the hyperextension is going to go towards your wrist, just turn your hands outward, okay, or put them back. It depends. For you, everyone's a little different on what's comfort level for them, so keep that in mind. But put them behind you, big chest. You're going to drive from your heels up. This is also a good bicep stretch. And just try to keep your spine, your neck neutral. So you don't want to be tucking your chin in or necessarily totally hanging out. So just try to keep it neutral and really fight for that range of motion. And once again, just like the short bridge, you can add repetitions if you'd like, which is preferred, being that if your only exercises are body weight, so that way you're not just focusing on the isometric hold, which once again is an active stretch. But adding the dynamic movements will help activate your muscles and stimulate them to grow. So now I'm going into a full bridge, more or less, but there's still slight variations to it to get there. So as you've seen, we did what's called a head bridge. The head bridge is actually a pretty critical spot, once again, because you got to be able to, that's actually a point of where you want to start, is by getting on the head bridge before you even go. So don't even combine it in one fluid motion until you can get a solid comfort level with the head bridge. Okay, so once again, you keep the 90, nothing changes. Hand positions, very important. If you can see how I can turn my hand outward, I can turn it inward, depending on your flexibility at the time, or mobility is important. So just get comfortable with your hands, spread the base. You're going to pop up into the head. This is an important progression to where you place your hands, and then from there, expand outward. Pinch the coin really hard. Pinching the coin in your glutes is what's going to protect your lumbar spine and help push out, so that way you can take away the hyperextension in the wrist, so you can be comfortable as possible. So by squeezing your glutes really hard, it pushes your spine and your chest towards this direction to take leverage away from the hyperextension of your wrist, so that way the weight can just go straight down on the wrist more, instead of just causing the wrist just to bend backwards, because not everybody's going to be comfortable at that state, period. And so just keep that in mind whether you're doing any of the progression stuff. So it could be the angled bridge, the bench bridge function, is to just keep that in mind. It's all about the glute squeeze, because we're focusing on that posterior chain more so than anything, and pushing out. Don't be afraid to really crank it and push it. As long as you're squeezing your glutes, you'll be protected. If you want your shoulders to open up, you really have to fight for that push, and it's a time period. Okay, you have to have patience with it. Once again, because when you're pushing outward, as you can see, I'm not the greatest. You know, you'll see other people that can keep their arms totally locked out, their legs are fully extended. But as long as you have patience with it and kind of continue with these and keep fighting for that bridge, essentially, you will get there. Okay, there's so many ways to go about this stuff. Get comfortable. So one more time, head bridge, and then drive. So really squeeze and push. Fight for it. Okay, and once again, add repetitions to it if you like, or just do the static holds. The static holds, once again, this is one of the most important to the trifecta of stretches. There's generally 3. This is one of them. I'll probably be covering those more further on. Next tool to use for bridging is to help protect the wrist. So once again, if you're having a really hard time with that hyperextension, you're feeling a lot of strain on it, and it's really bothering you, use a wall. A wall is going to be your best friend for pretty much anything. I mean, I went over a squat tutorial before, and the wall is what's going to help correct that. I mean, no matter what it is, it could be push-ups, I mean, anything. The wall is a great tool to use. So with the bridging, you're going to try to get your hands and your head closest to the wall when you start. So get comfortable there. So you'll see I'm placing my wrist and forearm against the wall. Now from here, when I push up to the head and drive up, it takes a lot of the pressure away on the wrist, because you have the wall to support the extension, so you can develop the strength needed to do so and really fight for the mobility, the tension, and the move, so you can really get that hip thrust and the pinching of the coin, so you don't have to focus too much on the wrist setting you back, and that way it's another way to progress with it. And especially if you're going to try like one arm bridges, things of those natures, this is a good tool to use. Just use a wall. Will be your friend. Just some more final thoughts on bridging. You know, it is a serious exercise in the essence of just really how the body can move and what it's capable of. I mean, it's nowhere near a silly exercise when done right. And whether you're an Olympic lifter, you're an MMA artist, I mean, you practice Shaolin, of what, you know, something we do, everybody generally should bridge, because especially as far as like how when we stretch most of the time, we don't focus enough on our posterior chain activating. We do a lot of forward bending stretches, like when we do the straddles or like a roadkill type of stretch. So you want to be able to do that. I mean, this exercise is ancient in itself. I mean, in the past, you know, Indians, they did this exercise, you know, as far as like their yoga and their I guess, well-being stretches. I mean, it's a great move for longevity. Even the past Spartans and Greeks, of course, did this stuff. I mean, this exercise is that old. I mean, if you were a wrestler of any discipline, they teach this move a lot because it's needed for when, like, if you get pinned on the ground, it's to help you get back up in essence, or keep you from being pinned, as far as whether it's a sport or the motion, or whether you're using your neck as a neck bridge, essentially, with the move. It is just that old to be thought of when doing this, and that's why it should be practiced and done. I mean, all the old-time strongmen back in the day all functioned with back bridges. It is just one of those things that are just kind of slowly dissipating because we have all these great weight machines and stuff to use. But you want to add this to what you do. It will just make you better no matter how or what your level is with it. So just keep that in mind. And that, have a good day.